This is the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame in Mooresville. Welcome to Legends of Stock Car Racing. I'm Alan Bestwick. Today we flash back to the mid-1950s and visit with a Chicago, Illinois native who claims he's a converted Yankee. I speak of Tiger Tom Pistone. A towering 5 feet 5 inches, Tiger Tom was known as a very fierce competitor, but also known for being a great practical joker and having a wonderful sense of humor. Johnny Hayes will visit with Tiger Tom and recall some of those stories for us. When we come back, it'll be fun. Stick around.
Tom Pistone, the Tiger. One question I've always had is, how does a good boy from a fine family in Chicago end up down here with us? Now, how did you get started in racing in the Chicago area originally?
Well, I was hooked up with these kids by the name of Knopfel brothers, and we went to see a race one time. It was at Soldiers Field. They're running these hot rods they were running, and strictly stock cars.
How old were you then?
20. I was 20. And we went to look at these cars, and we finally built one. And that's what we did. We built it was a 49 Ford we built. And we put this car together, and we went out there. And the success I had was very good that year. I only flipped about 22 times that one year.
Actually flipped?
Oh, yes. I actually rolled over and flipped and everything else. But then I found out later what it was all about. Andy Granatelli and Vince and Joe was running the organization. And they would come over and said, let me set your car up for you, Tom. So these two guys were getting back in my car in the left rear, and they pushed the bumper down, and they take a chain, and they wrap it around the rear end housing and the frame. So now they put me in a pole position because I was a newcomer, and Andy Granatelli in them days had 5 booger artists. I don't know if you guys understand what booger artists are.
No.
Well, these guys were on the payroll to crash you. See, Andy Granatelli more or less ran this whole show that way, and he would put the newcomers on the pole, and then he would flip you. Have these guys hit you, and you go end over end over end over end, see?
Well, you're real intelligent. How long did it take you to catch on that they were using you as the guinea pig?
Well, finally, when I flipped over one day, and it was pretty bad, and Andy Granatelli come running over there, and he pulled me out of the car, and he carried me over to the ambulance, and that's when he took me in the office, and he says, Tom, he says, we're going to make a star out of you. And he explained the whole thing to me, what was going on. It took me a whole year to find out that's how stupid I was, you know.
Then did you get to turn the new people over when they came in?
No, I began the race then. See, now Andy Granatelli put us on his team. See, Andy had a team of 5 people. It was Jim Rathman, Pat Flaherty, Al Swanson, and all these guys they staged the races for Andy Granatelli. So now I was on this team. He'd tell you when to win, he'd tell you when not to win. See, in his day, like I told Bill France Sr., the white flag was the winner, not the checker flag. When you come across that line, you took the white flag, you backed off, and you let the second place guy win. See, that's the way Andy Granatelli ran his races for 10 years that way in Chicago, and it was very successful.
So how long did you do that? I mean, race in the Chicago area?
6 years. See, Andy Granatelli joined NASCAR in '55, and then they says if you win one more championship, they promoted me. So late '55 is when I came down to NASCAR.
And you moved to Charlotte then?
No, I raced back and forth for 10 years. From '55 to 1965, I raced down south. I kept going back home every weekend.
How was that? I mean, how many races did you run a year?
Oh, God only knows, 60, 70 races. Who knows? And
you commuted?
Back and forth.
To Chicago?
Yes, sir, back and forth. Right after the race, well, the bad part of the whole deal is after the race down here, when you finish the race, the promoter already knows what happened to your car. So he's got you standing in a line after the race, and we're all sitting there, and he's got his feet on top of the desk when you walk in, and he says, okay, son, what can I do for you? He knows now we blew up, we flipped the car and everything else like that, and we're begging for $10 to get back home. And you're sitting in this line. That was the bad part of racing. You're sitting in that line waiting for your $10 to get back home again, you know. But it was worth it. It was worth it. When I came south in 1955, that was the last race of the year in NASCAR. That was a race I remember very well because I came down a week early. I mean, a week late. I'm sorry, a week late. And I didn't realize this. I pulled into a gas station in Winston-Salem, and I walked in, I says, where's this here race at Martinsville, Virginia? So all of a sudden I see this big man come out, big tall guy comes on. He says, "Son, that race ran last week," you know. and he brought me inside this gas station, him and Joe Hawkins, and I finally found out who this big guy was. It was Bill France Sr.
You're kidding.
Oh yeah, he was
just by accident.
Well, I didn't know he owned the station with Mr. Hawkins, and that's when they run Winston-Salem, Bowman Gray, and so he took me in and took care of my car for me, and that's how I met Bill France Sr.
You were really the first big Yankee type guy that come down here. How were you accepted by the Southern race car drivers in those days?
Well, see, like I said, when I got hooked up with Bill France Sr., this one guy, there was a flag man. I can't remember his name right now. He had a scar across his face. He was a tough hombre. And he says, "Tom," he says, "you want to get along with these people?" I says, "Yeah." I says, I never went to school. You know, I got thrown out of school because, you know, and I never took history. And I didn't understand Yankee and all this here talk about the Civil War and everything. I never heard of that. See, so when I come down, I said, these people must be sick or something, because I don't know whether they keep calling me Yankee or, you know, Yankee go home. So this flagman come up with an idea. We painted a rebel flag on the car, and we put a light bulb on the car, and we put down, "I see the light." And, you know, and I was a change. Now I'm a Southern WAP, not a Northern WAP. I joined these people because I don't know what they were talking about, you know. So that's how I got in with all the people. I used to say, "I don't know who that guy is. He's a Yankee. Tell him to go home," you know.
One of the great stories I'd always heard about you, and I'd rather you tell the story, is the big race at Daytona with the lake.
Oh, God almighty.
How was that the first time?
Well, nobody realized it, that lake sitting in the middle there, you know. It's there. All of a sudden, this guy by the name of Tommy Irwin went into it. And we didn't think nothing of it. All of a sudden, the guy stayed down there for a long time. And we found out later why it took him so long to get out. See, what happened, the crank that rose the window up and down, it fell off. And he was inside the car searching for it to try and roll the window off so he'd get out. And when he told me that story, I says, "That's enough for me." So I went out and bought an aqua lung and a life jacket, and I wore it because I can't swim, you know.
Did you really wear
Yes,
it?
sirree. Yes, sirree. I wore it. A lot of people don't know I had the aqua lung with me, too. You know, I had the air tank, the whole works, the oxygen tank, you know. Oh, yes, sirree, because I was definitely scared of water. And I knew if I go in there, I was coming back out again.
Well, that's always been one of the great stories
yes.
that ever said. Can you imagine Tiger Tom with a big life
Yes,
vest
sirree.
on riding through there?
I'm not ashamed either.
I'd like to go back to some of the people you grew up with, drove with. What was Curtis Turner like?
Curtis Turner was a businessman. Very businessman. You know, he was a timberman. And he drove for me. I had him drive my T-Bird at Columbia, South Carolina one night. And he come in, was dressed in a suit. And I said, "Where's your uniform?" We had no uniforms in them days. I said, "Where's, you know," I says, "Is that the way you're gonna drive?" He says, "Yeah." He got in the car with a suit and drove my T-Bird at Columbia, South Carolina. Curtis Turner drove anything. I don't care what it was. He drove it. He loved the race, you know. And the thrills with Curtis was when I got to know him real good. Him, Joe Weatherly, Paul Goldsmith, they all had airplanes. You know, twin-engine Apaches, what you call them. And I used to be up there with the airplane with these guys flying, and the worst thing you can do is go to sleep, because that's when they play the games on you. The nose dive, straight down, and then straight up, you know. And then...
what year was this?
Oh, it was in the 50s and 60s. It was in the, and then they try to throw you out of the airplane. You know, turn the airplane sideways,
good.
you know, open the door, and then try to throw you out. They play tag with you upstairs. And then we used to land this airplane at the racetracks. We always went to the racetracks. We didn't go no place else. We landed right on the racetrack.
Right on the track.
Right on the track we landed. And Curtis Turner, once I fell asleep again. And I woke up and I looked outside, and the prop was not running. You know, he turned the engine off. I didn't know that. And I turned around and said, "Curtis, the engine's off," you know. He turned it off, you know. And he'd make off, we were having engine problems. He would make off like we were having. Oh, yeah, these guys were crazy.
When we look back and talk about your relationship with Bill France Sr., when you look back on those days, everything's positive with Mr. France?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I used to get fun go by his house, he would have it registered. And when you walk in the house, like you're going to like going to a restaurant, you had a register. You had to sign in. So first time I went to his house, I looked around. I says, now I know where the point fund money's at. Everybody's asking where was all the point fund money. I says, and Bill France got a kick out of that.
He had a nice house.
Oh yes, very nice. And he got a kick out of that. He really got a kick out of that. And then when he formed this here 3-car team in 1960, I didn't understand what corporation was. So Bill France Sr. says, Tom, he says, we're going to have a 3-car team. And Lynn Holloway, Grace Steamship Lines, was Bill France's partner.
And they owned this team.
They owned this here team themselves. Yeah. Bill France managed the team, and he run the team. And I had a shop behind the Speedway. I mean, a nice fancy shop. It used to belong to Bill Strop. And we formed a 3-car team, which was called Win, 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 Dash, 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 and Go, Go, Go. So Francis, you figure out which drivers you want to be your partners. So that year, I was sitting in the Queen City Motel here in Charlotte with Marvin Panch, and we thought of Ned Jarrett. So I called Ned Jarrett, and we got him. And I called Johnny Ellen, and we got him. And we formed this 3-car team. All right. I didn't know at the time that we were being budgeted and screened out to see which team can operate cheaper. See, I did not know it at the time. See, so Johnny Ellen and I had about the same amount of people, 2 people, paid them $100 a week. The shop was $125 a month, and I guess Ned Jarrett's garage was a dirt floor, 2-car garage, one man. I think it was Bud Allman, paid him $25 a week. And I think within 3 or 4 months, I guess Johnny Allen and I got released. And Ned Jarrett took over the whole operation. And that's the year I think he won the championship, or the following year, I forgot what it was, And that was the end of the 3-car team. It's like you always hear a 3-car team. We were the first ones that had a 3-car team.
And then they went back to just doing a 1-car team.
Right.
In racing, how sensitive everyone is, taking care of the sponsors, doing the right thing. I always thought one of the great stories that you had told about maybe Jim Hurtubise with the Coca-Cola, Pepsi thing. Why don't you tell us that story?
Well, Bill France was hooked up with Pepsi. That's all he knows is Pepsi-Cola. And he gave us a car. I think it was a 74 Torino or a 71 Ford Torino. And we put Jim Hurtubise in the car, and we had Pepsi in the car. And we were running real good in the race. And Hurtubise comes in for a pit stop, and he yells over and says, give me a Coke. And Bill France yells back on the radio, and he says, get that driver out of my car. I think he fired him after that race. I think he fired him.
Just asked for the wrong kind of cola.
Right. He says, give me a Coca-Cola,
If Mr. France said he's going to take care of a company and stuff, he took care of that company.
Yes, sir. 100%. When he was on your side, he was on your side.
What was Junior Johnson like in the old days?
Junior was my hero. He was actually, it's a touchy story right now, believe me. Junior would give you the shirt off his back, anything that you want. And in fact, I was telling people the other day, Junior Johnson's shop was always open to the public. I don't care. There was not one part of his shop was closed. The engine room, everything was open to the public. He believed in the people. He was a typical, what you call, Southern hospitality. The place was yours. You could walk in the place. There was nothing that he wouldn't do for you. Nothing. He was the softest man I ever met in racing. The softest. And I got to tell you a story about Martinsville. I think and whenever I want anything, I just go by Junior's truck and I used to take it. I didn't have to ask him. Just take it. He'd give it to you. And I ran the consolation race at Martinsville for my 64 Ford. And I borrowed his tires and wheels off his car. And I put them on my car. And that's the only reason I won the race, because I had his trick tires and wheels on my car, see? So after the race, I'm sitting there in Victory Circle, and Herb Knapp comes running over and says, Junior wants his tires and wheels. We got to start the feature. I was joking with Herb. I said, Herb, do me a favor, get away from me, will you? So, because I was romancing the girls in Victory Circle. So I come back after all this press release. I come back and my car is sitting in the mud, no tires, no wheels, no nothing. Herb and Junior just took the tires and wheels off and just dropped the car down in the mud.
You didn't kid with them after that.
No, I didn't kid with him no more after that, because he meant business then. No, Junior will give you anything. Oh, and then we went to, let me tell you about this here about Junior Johnson. He had Curtis Turner driving this car. It was a banana car. I don't know if you guys remember that yellow 71 Torino he had. Okay, Junior borrowed me a motor for that race. He said, Winston-Salem, this is Bowman Gray, quarter-mile racetrack, you know, tight place. And he says, Tom, please, don't bother my car. You know what I mean? So it just happened that my car worked and the engine worked. All right. I did not know that Curtis Turner and Bobby Ellison had some problems at the beginning of the race. I did not know this. See, Curtis Turner or Bobby spun each other out, whatever. They stuck Bobby to the rear of the field with me. So me and Bobby's going through the field. I'm following Bobby Ellison. We're going through the field. We catch up to Curtis Turner. And I passed Bobby just before the caution flag comes out. I passed Bobby. So now Bobby jumps me before the flag starts. And I said, wait, what's going on here? You know? And I'm trying to get Bobby Ellison behind me. He wouldn't get behind me. So now I'm beating Bobby to death with this car of mine, you know, and I'm punting him, and he's hitting Curtis Turner in front of him. And Curtis thinks that Bobby's messing with him again. See, yeah. So now it starts out to be a real war, you know. Bobby and Curtis is really banging each other like crazy.
And it's really you that's
causing It's really me causing all this. See, so, and Junior sees all this. So now Curtis Turner and Bobby crash each other. And I mean really wiping each other's out. So Curtis's car dies on the backstretch. You know, Junior Johnson's car? And Bobby Ellison's car is limping. This is the honest to God's truth. His car is limping. He goes all the way around the racetrack. We can't figure why he's going all the way around the racetrack. And he finally gets enough speed, and he drives right over the trunk of Junior Johnson's car and finishes it. And finishes the car. They brought his car back in pieces. They brought his car back. You know, I think I wound up second that race.
According to Tom's bio, he had 5 consecutive racing championships in Chicago before moving south to NASCAR. In his NASCAR career, he scored 2 wins and won just over $43,000. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but you have to remember that in those days, a cup of coffee was a dime, and you could buy a brand new car for just under $2,000.
What did your father do?
Well, my father was come from Italy, Palermo, Sicily.
So they actually immigrated?
Yeah, my father did.
Okay, so
my mother was born in Chicago, and my father came here, and he was a fruit and vegetable peddler. And that's what I was, you know, up to the time I started racing. I was a fruit and vegetable. I was a singing fruit and vegetable man.
Oh, my Lord.
Going through the yards and the alleys.
And you'd sing?
Oh, you had to sing. You know, oranges, apples, watermelons, and all this other stuff, you know. Oh, yeah, yelling, screaming.
And what year was this?
All the way up to 1949. Well, my dad, when he first started, he had a 2-wheel cart when he first started, like an old vegetable wagon when he first started. Then he had baskets on his arms. That's what we had.
Go door to door.
Go to door to door. I had one basket in his arm, one basket in his arm. We used to go up these alleys and all these 3-4 flight stairs and we never went home till all the stuff was sold. I worked when I was 5 years old all the way till the time, you know, I went to start racing.
You know, you've always been one of the best light guys on pit road. Everybody liked Tom Pistone. Everything was positive. When you first got, did you have many run-ins on the racetrack, negative situations at times with people, you know, where you fight or those sort of things when you started out?
No, it wasn't that bad because we all had an understanding. We were all the same size in that race car. A lot of people knew this, you know. I used to tell these drivers, I said, look, we're all the same size in that car. After the race, different story. You know what I mean? I'll have to get 20 guys, you know, to beat you up, you know, playing English, you know. But I says, in that car, they respected us in the car because they knew if you bang me, I'm going to bang you back or go head on. And a lot of us guys were like that, like Curtis Turner, Tiny Lund, a bunch of guys that way, you know. You better not hit him because they'll turn that car and they'll go head on with you because it didn't mean no difference, the car. See, so they respected us in them days. See, the one race I remember, I'll never forget that as long as I live, this guy, Larry Frank, he was an Indian. I think you remember him.
Yeah.
And Joe Weatherly spun him out. And after the race, Larry Frank was waiting for him, you know. So finally, Joe got out of his car, and Joe was running. I'll never forget that. And he was jumping on top of these cars in a parking lot from roof to trunk to roof to trunk, Joe was, and Larry's chasing him. And Larry couldn't catch him. So the next day, Weatherly come up to Larry and says, hey, Pop, you couldn't catch me, could you? He got Larry laughing. See, so that's what happened in them days. You know, you had to get the guy laughing so, you know, let him cool down. you know.
And they would. You'd work it out.
Oh, yeah.
They'd have the run-ins, but
Oh,
next
yeah.
week everything would be okay.
Oh, yeah. See, this Weatherly guy, this guy would never stop. You know, in our days, we used to have an ignition switch with the keys. And we used to have gas caps in the back of the car. Every race, this guy would come up with something. One race, he stole all the keys. All the keys. And we're sitting on the starting line. You know, I mean, he's the only one who had a key. The next race, he stole all the gas caps. You know, this Joe Weatherly.
My kind of man.
Oh,
yeah.
oh, he was very, very comical. You know, very, very, very. He was a clown. He was a clown. And I more or less, when I saw him doing that, I copied him. To be frank with you, you know, because he got away with it. I got away with it.
Yeah, and that's always the stories on the Tiger. He's always pulling tricks on everybody, doing everything. One great story that I'd always heard was a Tiny Lund story with you in handcuffs. What was the deal on that?
Well, oh yeah, this was at Macon, Georgia. The race before that, we had two 100-lap races we had. So the first 100-lap race, Tiny would always come with some excuses. You know, he'd block you. So he finished first, I finished second. Okay, the second 100-lap race, I says, this is not going to happen. So I body slammed Tiny, kept body slamming him. You know, I just kept beating his car to death. So finally, the next race, he handcuffed me to the fence before the race started. You know, and I says, well, I couldn't get off. I was just lucky there was somebody in the stands that had a key, because otherwise they're going to start this race and I'd be still handcuffed to the fence out there. This racetrack at Macon, Georgia, you know, we couldn't figure out what was down that basement. We couldn't understand. We felt sorry for this promoter, you know, Tiny and all those guys. We says, this guy can't make it. There's only 15 people in the stands. And he used to pay us deal money and everything else. And we found out later the guy had a still down there. And the only way he could make any money is run the race. So he'd keep the lights going. And the guy was making, the guy was making money. It was, I think they had a movie on that, you know, at Macon, Georgia, where the guy had a still underneath the racetrack.
Anybody that touched you special coming along that you'd say, hey, like Bill France, Sr., for example, he was, you'd mentioned earlier, he's almost like a father figure to you at times.
He was.
Did he make you stay in it and be successful and continue doing it?
Oh, yes, he kept me alive, kept the family alive. He'd come and visit you, come to the house. There was nothing he wouldn't do for you. And I stayed with him, and he stayed with me all the way to the end of my racing career.
Did that give you an advantage, being close friends with him, seeing how the sport worked, how it ran? I'm sure since y'all were friends, you did understand how the business was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a great advantage because he would help you. You know, every time you went broke, he would say, you know, Bill France was a person that, you know, you didn't have to ask him for money. He knew. He took care of your family. You know, I had 8 kids, and he knew that. And my whole racing life was racing. He knew this, and he took care of us. Very well, he took care of us.
Tom Pistone's a real work of art, but he's just one more piece of the puzzle that's helped make NASCAR into what it is today. Well, that's it for this week's show. Hope that you enjoyed it. I'm Alan Bestwick. We'll see you next time on Legends of Stock Car Racing.
Somebody told me that you raced in Caracas, Venezuela in 1958. Is that true?
Yes, sir. And Jim Rathman calls me up, says, Tom, he says, get down there, since you know how to talk a little Spanish. He says, we want to get our cars out of there. So now we fly to Caracas, Venezuela, and I flew into a war zone. This lousy Rathman knew this was going on.
Did he know that?
Oh, yeah, he knew it. He said, you know, because Rathman used to play jokes, him and A.J. Floyd all the time. And I said, well, I'll fix this guy up. So I found a pirate operation, an airplane, a pirate operation, and the Corvettes would not fit inside these airplanes. I said, and I told the pilot, I said, what we have to do is take these cars apart, turn them sideways, get them in the airplane, then reassemble them, you know. But what I want you to do is don't tell Rathman what we're doing. So we reassembled these cars, we stuck them inside this airplane, and he flew them back to Miami, and Jim saw this, and he says, how did Pistone get these cars in here? And he couldn't figure out how to get them back out again.